And then we had the creeps, as I write about in my third book on the steel. The creeps come in and they start covering it up. And no group, well, look at me, FBI, no group was as corrupt as you. Nobody. I'm challenging you, FBI. This is Merrick Garland, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's FBI and DOJ, Christopher Wray. You guys are liars, and you know it. You covered up for the crimes in 2020. And here's the bomb. I wrote a piece last night at joehoff.com saying, hey, get ready. We're going to drop a bomb on this show today. Here's the bomb. Our FBI is corrupt beyond belief, and they covered up massive crimes across the country, but especially in Georgia. They're complicit with these crimes. How can I say that? Because they came in and they allowed these lies to go forward. They did not investigate. They could not have investigated because the evidence is there. We have the evidence, FBI. We have the evidence of material crimes that were committed in Georgia after the election of 2020. Not only did we have video evidence that Rudy Giuliani released after the election, which from a professional auditor's perspective, I've done 200-300 audits around the world. I've presented to audit committees around the world. I've never seen anything so broken. If I would have walked into an audit committee and said, hey, we've got the evidence, it's right here on video, look at this, they would have said, fire those people right away. Fire them. And anybody who hired them, get rid of them. But our FBI stood up behind them and backed them up. And Joe Biden's giving these people awards. This is outrageous. Not only do we have video evidence, we have much, much more. So if something happens to me by this corrupt FBI, I want people to know we've got the evidence. We've got it. More than just video. We've got the evidence. We've got it. They know it. We've got it. We're going to...
You're watching CramerSez.
Well, that's not supposed to happen like that. I don't know what happened there. Hey, welcome to the show. My name is Kramer. This is the CramerSez Project. That was Joe Hoff. Joe Hoff is going off because what we found out late last week, Thursday and Friday, is that in Fulton County, Georgia, we need accountability. We need accountability for the American people. More importantly, we need accountability for the people of Fulton County, Georgia, whose election system is rigged. 315,000 votes were allowed to go through the system unchecked. 315,000. They had no signatures. They were not supposed to be in there. They were not supposed to be counted. They were not supposed to be certified. But the people of Georgia, the crooks of Georgia, the rhinos of Georgia, that's what they did in 2020. Accountability, folks, accountability. Here in just a few weeks, as soon as the holidays are over and everybody kind of settles back in, you're going to start getting, if you're not already getting them, all those little, pamphlets in the mail from your politician telling you how well you've done. Now, if they're already in Congress, they're using the mail system that you're paying for to tell you how good they're doing at their job. They're using your money to tell you how good you're doing because they're greasing you up for the upcoming election in just a few months. You see, here in Indiana, we've got a primary in May. There's others around the country happening at about the same time, some before, some after. But folks, here's where we are. They want your vote. What did they do since 2024? Have they delivered on any promises since 2024? They have not, have they? They've been fighting. They've been going back and forth. They're having fights among themselves, or they got to get to their day trader so they can make sure that they get their favorite trade in and enrich themselves on our back. Meanwhile, we're not getting this. Over there. We're not getting that. We're not getting accountability. We're not getting what we want. They want our vote. We want that. We want accountability. We're tired of it. And if you can't do it, and by the way, my whole thing is, I don't care who you like. I don't care who your favorite politician is. They're all cucks. There's only a couple that are speaking up right now. One of them is Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett, on a regular basis, is telling us, the American people, what's really going on and how helpless he is to do anything about it. The rest of them, the other 434 of them, chuck him out the fucking window. No, I don't live in Tennessee. I happen to like what Tim Burchett is doing. I think that what he's saying on a daily basis, telling the American people how fucked up it is, should tell you. I was going to go to Congress. I was going to run in the 4th District coming up here in 2026. I had backers and everything. And then I went to D.C. and I talked to them and I saw how fucked up it is. And I said, there's no fucking way I'm coming here in my final years. What a waste of time. If I'm going to run, I'm going to run for governor. That's where you can do something. You can do something in the state legislature. Congress is owned. Anybody but the incumbent. Anybody. We're not going to get accountability with these fuckers. They don't want accountability. They are protectors of the status quo. You want protection, right? You want your rights protected? What did they do? What did they do when these companies started coming in and violating our rights, saying you can't say that and you can't say that? Where have they stepped up and said, no, we're going to protect the rights of the American citizen? Companies cannot come in and tell whole groups of people what they can and can't say. We've already done that law. It's called common carrier provision. That's why you can go on Verizon and AT&T and every other carrier where your voice or your ideas are carried, and there you have free speech. Why? Well, because there's no lobbyist for that group anymore. That law was settled back in 1938. But Facebook, Meta, Instagram, Apple, Google, all of them, they've got people in there on a daily basis lobbying against your rights for them. And your Congress people, they don't give a shit about your rights. If they did, they'd push back. They don't. They're cowards. Every single one of them. You've heard me say a million times that 80% of people will do whatever they're told. Congress people are in that mix, folks. 80% of congressional members will do whatever they're told. By leadership, by their donors, whatever they're told. They like the power. You see where I'm going here? They will do whatever they're told. They are not strong-willed people. They are people that have got a great smile, kind of a firm handshake, and they know how to talk small talk. That's why I've never run for office. I'm terrible at small talk. I don't give a shit about the little things. The weather, what's it looking like outside? Couldn't give two shits. Yeah, it looks like it's going to rain. Okay, moving on. Can we get some shit fixed here? I'm not a small talk guy. I go to a party, I get right into the deep of it immediately. I don't want to hear about your kids. I don't want to hear how they're doing. I don't want to hear how your grandkids are doing. I don't give a shit. We've got bigger problems, well, bigger fish to fry at this point. Bigger problems to solve. And people get their butt hurt about that. I've heard that here in the last few weeks. I've had several viral videos go viral on X and Facebook and Instagram in the last couple of weeks. One, because of Rob Reiner. I called him a disgusting pig, and that's who he was as a human. I was told by the Republicans that I needed to take the high road and join them on the high road. Fuck that. There's no high road. You guys are all morons. There's no high road. You're not on a higher road. You're just too chicken to say what needs to be said. You're not on a high road. You're a coward. You don't want the people coming at you saying, you believe what I'm saying. You don't like Rob Reiner anymore than I do. But you're too chicken to say it. Oh no, I'm up here, Kramer. I'm going to take there is no high road. You're down here in the gutter with the rest of us. You're just too fucking chicken to say anything about it. Joe Hoft is, he's saying what we're all feeling, folks. Did you hear the emotion in his voice? I know Joe Hoft personally. That's not Joe. Joe's a laid-back, mild-mannered guy. To get him that upset, you have to understand how corrupt this system is. It is corrupt beyond belief. I've told you what I think is going to happen. I don't think we have much choice here, mainly because the American populace is too fucking lazy. They've been lulled to sleep with bread and circus. Or today it's Nintendo and pizza. Same thing. Video games, sports, all of the distractions to keep you busy thinking that you have life, but you don't, you're a slave. Half your money goes to somebody else. You don't know who they are. You give half your money to somebody else. Why? Because that's the way it's always been? Have you seen what they're doing with your half of the money? Have you seen what they're doing with it? They take it and then they justify how to go kill somebody else over there. Now, there's some bad people around the planet, but it doesn't help, the friendship factor when you're blowing up people indiscriminately around the planet. They get pissed off. They want to get even. And every once in a while they do. Now, for the last several years, we've been importing these people into our nation. The same fucking places we've been bombing indiscriminately since I was a kid. And we've now invited those people into our home and said, hey, come on in, guys. Make yourself at home. Melt into the melting pot. And they're saying, fuck you. We're from the 7th century. We're not fucking melting. We'll take your head off, though. We'll take over all your cities. We'll tell you what you can and cannot do and what you can and cannot wear, and you'll do what we say. Saw a piece today that the young millennials that are getting out of college with their head full of ideas of revolution and socialism and how to save the planet are being put in lockstep with the radical Islam side of things, and that's what's going to be the fight. That's going to be the next fight. I believe that they're true. I believe that's right. Strategically, logistically, it looks, yep, that's the way I'd do it. They're both ready to fight. They both want to fight. The same thing happened during World War II. The Nazis joined up with the Muslims. We're fighting the same groups, folks. They've got different names today, but at the end, they all align the same. They all come back together to support each other. If you want accountability, we're going to have to start talking about how we get it ourselves, because our politicians are too much of cowards to do it for us. They're not going to do it. None of them are. You seen the call for Bondi to be taken out? Patella will be right behind her. They're fucking around, folks. They had a mandate from the people. They chose not to honor. Oh, we can't honor it. We can't honor it. We've got to block this out and block. We're all adults. Let us see it all. But the victims, we know who the victims are. It's too late for that. There's too many important things that need to be taken care of. I'm sorry for the victims. I truly am, but they're in a system that is much bigger than them, and the American people deserve to know, regardless of who the victims are. It's time, folks, and you have to start demanding it. If you want accountability, you're going to have to demand it, because the people in power are not going to demand accountability. They're just not going to do it. They are protectors of the status quo. I keep telling you who they are. They are not the people who disrupt the status quo. Democrats are trying to explain away all of Bill Clinton's photos with Epstein. Well, there's none in here with Trump. He scrubbed them. That's what he did. He redacted all the photos with him. Really? Where are they? Trump has never been to the island. Well, there's plenty of emails. Okay, show us the emails. They keep saying what they've got, and we keep looking at it, and they don't have it. Now they've got a guy who was actually a friend of Jeffrey Epstein's coming out and saying, well, Jeffrey Epstein one time showed me photos of him and Trump. He pulled them out of his safe, and it's him and Trump with little girls. Produced the photos. I'm not a Trump fanboy. We got a picture of Trump with his dick and some chick that's underage. Yeah, he's got to go. But folks, if they had that picture, they would have used it. You don't need to take a misdemeanor and turn it into 34 felonies if you've got a picture of the former president with his dick and some kid. You don't need to invent crimes. You don't need to raid his home illegally. If you've got a picture, if you've got proof. They don't have it. If they had it, they would have already used it. That would have been the thing that solved everything. Look who Trump is. He's one of the people you say you hate. Look who he is. And we would all jump on board and say, yep, that's too bad. Trump wasn't who we thought he was, but we don't have that picture. Do you know what I do have? I have pictures of Bill Clinton. Not with his dick in somebody, but they're a victim. He's in the pool with him. I want to be real clear here. Bill Clinton is 1,000,000 miles closer to any of the Epstein victims than you or I are. Right? He's right there. He's in the room. Did he violate her? I don't know. Did he have sex with her? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that unlike anybody else that's watching tonight, Bill Clinton was in the room with a victim. Were you? I wasn't. My conscience is clear. Trump says his is clear. He said that a bunch of people are going to get hurt. I believe what he's saying. I believe that a bunch of people are going to get hurt by association. I've been in media my entire life. My entire life. Have I always been perfect? No, I have not always been perfect. But I have never gotten myself into those kind of situations. Why? Because I know how that shit is used. But I've been in media my entire life. I've seen this kind of shit happen. The Weinsteins and the sexual predators that are unleashed in media, especially young kids. I was 16 when I got into media. Trust me. I was a svelte 180 pounds. I had the hair, had the muscles. I was everything at the time. I was a pretty man. And then the ravages of time took over. But back then, I got hit on by gay producers and directors and everybody else, just like everybody else. You can look up a case in Indianapolis that went to trial, a guy named Gary Hoffman. Gary Hoffman was my first boss. Now, I didn't sue him because I was too young and didn't know what to do at the time when it happened. Years later, this happened. But a guy named Tom Gilligan sued him for sexual harassment. This was a new thing. This was back in the 90s. Tom said that he didn't get the job that he was supposed to get because he wouldn't suck Gary's dick. That's true. That shit happened. Gary fired me because I wouldn't suck his dick. That's what the business was back in the 80s. That was 82. Gary's dead now, died of AIDS. Karma. Joe Hoff told us that we need accountability, folks. We've got the evidence. Fulton County just admitted it was adjudicated that 315,000, not 315, not 3,100, not 31,000, 315,000 votes were put through without being certified. They had no signatures on them. They should not have been in the system, but Georgia counted them anyway. Remember when we had Ruby and her daughter putting those ballots in left and right? Everybody else was forced out. And they said, oh, no, those ballots weren't anything. Don't worry about those. Those were there all night. But they only brought them out once the Republicans were forced to leave the room. Ruby and her daughter have a lot of explaining to do. Did they go through her machine? I don't know. 315,000. They kept putting the same ones in through. Oh, they're jamming. They were jamming. That's what was happening. Really? That's not how you clear a jam. That's not how you start over. You have to start the whole system over again. So you get the count right. You don't just keep putting them back in because they're jamming. We're not stupid, folks. We don't have PhD or a long list of letters after our names, but we can look at what's going on and realize that you're pissing on my leg and trying to tell me that it's raining. And that ain't gonna happen. You want accountability? You're gonna have to start demanding it. You're gonna have to start letting everybody around you politically know. You call everybody from your mayor, anybody that you're going to have to vote for in 2026, you let them know you want accountability. Otherwise, they ain't getting your vote. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
From the halls of Congress
Across the nation.
and around the globe.
You're getting the latest news and conservative views.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
They lied about it. They tried to hide it.
It was 100% unconstitutional. That's what we were saying in 2024.
I could have sworn that yesterday we learned that the FBI tapped my phone.
And today the NLPC has been vindicated by Senator Grassley's document dump, revealing Jack Smith illegally and unconstitutionally spied on American citizens.
Jack Smith spied on members of the United States Senate. What is this, East Germany?
Grassley's document dump has revealed that Jack Smith's team illegally seized call logs from Ron Johnson, Lindsey Graham, Mike Lee, and Josh Hawley in the unconstitutional 2023 Arctic Frost probe.
From the outset, we said Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional. A federal judge vindicated that view. Now we see the connection between unconstitutional prosecutions and illegal evidence gathering.
The NLPC has been on top of this story from the beginning. Follow or subscribe to the NLPC on this platform for more. Or visit the National Legal and Policy Center at nlpc.org.
To learn more about the CramerSez project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it, please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching CramerSez.
Well, I have no idea what's going on there, but we got to get that fixed. Okay, anyway, we will look at that here in a moment. Welcome back to the show. This is the CramerSez project. One of the things I wanted to show tonight is I thought that this was important. We are finding out on a daily basis that what we've been saying for the last 4 years is 100% true. 100% true. Everything that everybody called you when they said that you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, no, there's no way that came from China. No, that's not a Chinese virus. He's a fucking racist. You got the Wu-Chan flu. That's what you got. China released that shit on America. Our government produced it. They did it because they wanted Trump out. There is no ands, if, or buts about it. No, there is no doubt in my mind this was all man-made to get us to where we are right now. Then they rigged the 2020 election. We found out that in Fulton County alone, 315,000 ballots were put into the system illegally. They had no signatures on them. They should have never been certified. They were. We said that was going on. We were called election deniers and a threat to the nation. Folks, let me be real honest with you. We're not the threat. The people stealing and rigging are. Now, for us to be a threat, they've got to think that there's something that we can do that they can't stop. And we have that. Everybody wants to go to their guns. Everybody wants to go, let's go get our guns. Let's go. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? I asked a group of friends the other day. We got together for a talk. I had a conversation with another guy today. Told him the exact same thing. Okay, you got your gun. You got your vest on, you got your helmet, you're looking all badass. Who are you going to shoot first? Who's your first victim? Who's the person that has to pay for what they've done to this nation? How are you going to do that? How are you going to track them down? How are you going to go get them? You know where they live? You know what their security is? You know what their lifestyle is? You know who's around them all day? Are you going to do that? Because you're the one that we want to go pull the trigger the first time. You. The loudmouth, the one that says that they're going to do this all the time. We want you to go do it. You got to be the first one. Nobody knows. Well, I'd go after this guy or that guy or this guy. Really? Okay. Then what? Then what are you going to do? You've seen how the system works, don't you? The moment that happens on a one-by-one basis, they track you down within a few hours and you're in jail, you're on the national news, and then you spend the rest of your life rotting in jail. That's why I say about the left. The left is either going to get themselves killed or a lot of people are going to go to jail for what they're doing. They're romanticizing revolution. They think that it's going to put them into martyrdom, that it'll make them virtuous, fighting for the right cause, punching a Nazi in the mouth. What they don't realize is they've been hoodwinked. There are no Nazis. Not in America. On the global scale, running things, well, that's who's running everything are the Nazis. That ideology. They decided to rebrand it, that they were going to do something different, that they were going to go in a different direction. They've tried it 4 times now. In the 20th century, they tried it 3, and they've tried it once in the 21st. What am I talking about? They've tried to reset this planet 3 separate times. The first time was with the Fed. That didn't work, and so they came in 2017, we had a war. 1941, we had another one. Do you realize that since the Fed came in, that this country has had a war or major fighting somewhere on the planet or a financial collapse every 11.4 years? Every 11.4 years on average, we've either had a financial meltdown or we've gone into war with somebody. That's what keeps the printing presses going and everything going. When Trump came in 2016 and no new wars, the Fed didn't know what to do with that. Trump has broken the system, folks. The Venezuela issue is a great issue to look at because it's not what everybody thinks it is. A lot of MAGA people lost their minds saying that they were going to stop backing Trump. Why? Well, because he was going to start a new war and he promised no new wars. That's what he said. We're not going to war with Venezuela. We're going to war with Europe. That's who he's going to war with. Venezuela has no power. They're a puppet state. They're a banana republic. The real power is in Europe, the ones running the drugs out of Venezuela. Those drugs, those boats that are going off into the Caribbean there, folks, those boats ain't coming to the U.S. Why is Trump so worried about drugs going to Europe, going to the Caribbean, jumping across the Pacific and going to Africa and up the western coast of Africa into Spain? Why is Trump worried about that? Why is Trump worried about the old French connection? Think about it. Why is he doing that? Because he's fucking with their cash flow. The elites are scrambling in Europe because he's fucking with their cash flow. They use that cash flow to do everything that they're doing to us. The elites that back all of these NGOs and do all the bullshit that they're doing around the planet. You see, the NGOs are the little armies, the civilian armies of these billionaires, and they are basically the things that move the chess pieces around on the table. That's what the NGOs do. They are chess piece movers. They're the funders of all the things. They come in and they will help your community out. All you got to do is X, Y, Z. Take this loan out, do this, and boom, we'll help you out. Meanwhile, we're going to take over your education system, your water system, your electrical system. We're going to take over everything in your nation. That's what they do. That's what they've been doing for eons. And they run both an honest business and a dishonest business. They run drugs, prostitution, numbers, all the things that the mafia does. They take both sides all the time. When they need a little more of this, they press a here, and folks, they get a little bit more of this through their politicians. And then when somebody steps out of line, they go to the bad guys, and the bad guys put them all back in motion, online. It's not that difficult. When you understand how fucking simple it is, it's not that difficult to see how corrupt it is worldwide. You think it's going to get fixed? You think that we're going to fix this system in this nation by following the rules? Folks, I want you to realize that the nation that you live in, our heritage is revolution. It's getting in trouble. It's telling the powers that be, nah, we're not doing that anymore. Now that takes a lot of balls. I can see you sitting there in your chair or watching on your phone or whatever device you're on, and you're going, that's right, Kramer, that's right. That's who we are. That's who they were. That's not who you are. That's not who you are. There's very few men and women in this country that has what it takes to get up off the couch and go do something of action. It's very few. Most men and women will sit on the couch and they'll bitch and moan. I had a buddy today, love him to death. Dan's one of my best friends. He screams and yells. And today I had to tell him to shut his mouth because he never goes and does anything. Dan. I know. Well, I went twice. I went to January 6th. January 6th is just one day. That was 5 years ago. What have you done since? Where have you been since? Where have you stood in line or protested? Where have you told somebody else, no, you're not doing that? When have you done that? When's the last time you went down to the State House at some meetup and talked to a congressman or a state legislator or a state senator and said, no, this isn't what we want. We don't want more of these things. They don't benefit our communities. They only benefit you and your campaign. And we're coming after you. When's the last time you did that? He's never done that. So he shut his mouth. You see, this is the way I look at things, folks. I don't think that I'm better than people who don't do anything, but people who don't do anything don't have the right to speak. They just yell and scream at the windmills. They don't actually do anything. They don't want to change anything. They just want to bitch and moan. It's like the person who's got their gun and their helmet and their little Kevlar vest, and they're ready to go out and kill someone. Okay? Why haven't you done it so far? What's holding you back? I'll tell you what, because there's no plan. When things go sideways, folks, and that's what they'll be, because there's no group of Americans getting together to go take over the government. There's a bunch of leftists that say that they're going to wreak havoc and commit terrorist acts. They keep getting busted for that, but explain to me how you're going to take this nation over. You want to take over the government? How are you going to take it over? You can't take over the United States. Not in the traditional form, not in the old way of we're just too big. You go and take D.C., now you got to take New York. You take New York, now you got to take Chicago. You're not taking Chicago and New York and D.C., not in this country, not without a fight. So the only options that we have at this point, folks, are the ballot boxes. That's the only thing that screws them up more than anything else is their algorithms run a specific way. And when you show up and fuck up their algorithms with a ton of new numbers, they don't know what to do. They cannot account for it. We don't have a path forward unless we have accountability. Accountability is the only thing that's going to save us. It's going to save us because in 2020, we had a coup. And only with accountability can we get back to where we need to be. Only with accountability. What does that mean? That means people hang. People go to jail. People are shot. That's what accountability means. Why? Because they're traitors. Like Jesse Waters explains here.
News alert, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Gabbard.
You're watching CramerSez.
And then we had the creeps.
News alert, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy from the assessment that were repeated over and over again and form the basis of the Russia hoax and the Robert Mueller witch hunt. 1, that Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win. 2, Putin took action to help Trump win. 3, the Russians had blackmail on Trump. That was the Steele dossier. And 4, that the Russians tried colluding with the Trump campaign. None of any of this was ever true. There was no reliable intelligence to support any of these allegations. Senior CIA officials repeatedly refused to traffic in these allegations, but they were repeatedly overruled by CIA Director Brennan and FBI Director Comey, who insisted that they be pushed, even without verifiable evidence. The Obama administration cherry-picked the intelligence, lied about their sources, misquoted sources, didn't corroborate their claims, suppressed intelligence that ran counter to their narratives, and even used anonymous internet postings. Rank and file CIA admitted what they were doing violated their own tradecraft standards. There was a massive pressure campaign that came right from the top. CIA analysts say they received unusual directives from political appointees, the CIA director, and Obama himself. This is how the Russia hoax was born.
Donald Trump knows that the Russians helped him win in 2016.
Putin hated Secretary Clinton so much that the flip side of that coin was he had a clear preference for the person running against the person he hated so much.
It was Russia in a very systematic way tried to interfere in the election and to try to advance the prospects of Donald Trump being elected.
This was such a malicious disinformation campaign perpetrated on the American people that at one point, 60% of Democrats believed the Russians hacked our voting machines to help Trump win the White House. What this report actually shows is that the Russians just wanted to create chaos and undermine Americans' faith in democracy. Solid intelligence suggested that Vladimir Putin didn't care who won. He had no preference. But like most people, expected Hillary to win and had a little docket of compromising dirt on her. Dirt that he never released. Now, if Putin wanted Trump to win, why didn't Putin drop the dirt?
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers. Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump.
Now, if Clinton was on tranquilizers like the Russians believed, why didn't they leak it to help Trump win?
How credible was the information about Hillary Clinton's power?
All I have seen is what the Intelligence Committee have reported through their investigation. I think the underlying point there is that we understand from intelligence what Russia said that they had. And the important point here is that if they were trying to influence the election, as President Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan, everybody said they were doing in order to support Donald Trump's election, they would have released the most damning of that information.
Obama and his spy chiefs knew that Putin didn't prefer Trump over Hillary, but they cooked the intelligence to make it look like he did. Obama and his intel spies knew that Putin didn't collude with Trump and that he didn't even direct his people to help Trump win. But they put it out there anyway. In a sense, Barack Obama did exactly what Putin wanted, undermined Americans' faith in free and fair elections and caused chaos in our country. Barack Obama, the CIA, and the FBI were the ones doing what our enemy wanted.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Even 2 years later, after the election, Barack Obama was still pushing a hoax he knew wasn't true. And he knew it wasn't true because he helped manufacture it.
They're undermining our alliances, cozying up to Russia. What happened to the Republican Party? They're cozying up to the former head of the KGB. Actively blocking legislation that would defend our elections from Russian attack. What happened?
Now, I don't know if it's possible to indict a former president for actions he took while in office. I'm not a lawyer, proudly. But Brennan, Comey, and others may have severe liability. Trey Gowdy says we know for a fact that Brennan committed perjury when he lied to Congress.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
You know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
Well, that's a lie. Whatever happens to these guys is not revenge. It's accountability. And it's time for people to pay the price.
Jesse's right. Do you think they're going to do it, though? Do you think that Washington, do you think our politicians have the balls to do what needs to be done? Because to have the balls to do what needs to be done, you have to recognize that somebody who down the road, years ago, you may have gone to college with, or you may have had cocktails with, or you may have even been in their home at some point, that they're a traitor and you're going to have to call for their assassination. Do you think, when I say assassination, I don't mean assassination, I mean their execution. That's what I mean. Execution. Do you think that these men and women of today have the balls that it takes to hold their friends accountable for the crimes they've committed? I don't think so. I don't think they do. I don't think they have what it takes to hold these men and women accountable. You and I are going to have to do that. You and I are going to have to be the ones that hold these people accountable for the sins that they've committed, the crimes that they've committed against you and I. What have they done? We know what they did from 2016 on. It's clear, folks. We're not stupid. We're not dumb. There's no conspiracies. They rigged an election. They spied on Trump. They lied to the American people. They created hoax after hoax after hoax trying to get us to abandon Trump. Then when that wouldn't work, they released a pathogen onto the planet. They rigged an election. They locked up innocent men and women in jail. They created the hoax of January 6th. We'll get to that in just a moment with John Solomon. They've lied time and time and time and time again. And if these men and women will not be held accountable by our politicians, those we've sent there to do just that, if they will not hold themselves accountable, then who does that leave it up to? That's right. You and me. Just like our founding fathers. We're going to have to be the criminals that the elites want us to be. You guys keep saying that, well, if we do that, they'll use it as an excuse. Bullies don't need an excuse to do what bullies do. They're going to do what they're going to do. They don't want you standing up. They want you sitting down doing exactly as you're told. That's why Q, the psyop of Q, that's why the QAnon bullshit, that's why all of that was such a great success, because the people most likely to stand were convinced to sit down. That white hats were going to do all the heavy lifting for them and save their liberties and their freedoms. They didn't have to do anything. Sit back. We've got it all taken care of. You know as well as I do that nobody will fight for your life as hard as you will. Do you know how I know? I've watched people stand along a shore as somebody is drowning going, oh my God, what is they going to do? When men and women who knew what they were doing jumped in, risked their lives to go save the drowning person. The other person, the Karen and the Ken, sit along the shore saying, oh, it's a shame. Nothing's ever going to happen. Nobody's ever going to do anything. They never look at themselves as anybody. That's the 80%. The 80% that will find any reason to go along with the bully. John Solomon has information about J6 when we come back. We'll do that next.
The CramerSez Project will return
after this important message.
Introducing Tusk.
With Tusk, you get uncensored news and secure browsing,
all while protecting your privacy.
Choose the news you trust and take control of your internet.
Join the free speech revolution with Tusk.
Download Tusk today at tuskbrowser.com.
For decades, the Smith-Mundt Act protected Americans from U.S. government propaganda meant for foreign audiences.
But in 2012, the Modernization Act gutted those safeguards, allowing taxpayer-funded misinformation to flood our media and minds.
Over the last 10-plus years, we've seen the damage.
Take COVID-19 messaging as an example.
The government pushed relentless vaccine campaigns and lockdowns, often suppressing dissenting science, leading to widespread distrust and division.
Election narratives.
Federal agencies amplified Russia collusion stories and censored social media, influencing public opinion and elections under the guise of fighting disinformation.
Climate change agendas.
Billions in funding promoted alarmist green policies, downplaying economic impacts and alternative views to push globalist initiatives.
This isn't freedom, it's manipulation.
Urge President Trump to overturn the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act and restore protections against domestic propaganda.
Take action today. Sign the petition now and make your voice heard while you still have the chance.
To learn more about the CramerSez project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it,
please visit thecramersezproject.com.
These timelines, these stories, the idea that the people set up gallows were MAGA people when we now don't think they're MAGA people based on the video. All the storylines we were force-fed in the aftermath of January 6th, much like Russia collusion, much like Ukraine impeachment, they're falling apart when we get the evidence.
You're watching CramerSez.
I'm going to have to fix that. That's not supposed to happen. We will get that fixed. I don't know why that's doing that. John Solomon is telling us the J6 narrative is falling apart because everything that we've been told is a lie. Folks, everything we've been told is a lie. Everything that we've been told since 2016 has been a lie. Well, I'm going to go back to 2008. I'm going to tell you that everything that we've been told since 2008 has been a lie. A lot of what we've been told by the media since then has been a lie. A lot of what we've been told by big business and big pharma since then has been a lie. Now, we've been lied to for a long time, but man, in 2008, they really cranked it up. And what happened in 2008? That's when Obama came into office. Said he was going to transform this nation, and he did. He did exactly to this nation what Trump is now doing to fix it. He came in like a bull in a china shop, knowing what he was going to do. He had a plan coming in. I got some messages while we were gone on break about how they can't watch me because I don't believe in Q. Well, good riddance. Q is a psyop. If you believe that somebody is out there fighting harder for your freedoms than you are, is more willing to give their life for your liberties than you are, you're a moron who deserves to be a slave. Because that's what you're setting yourself up for. Folks, it is clear that we are in trouble. Nobody can do anything. When I tell you that I went to D.C., I was going to run for Congress. I had backers, I had money. The only problem is what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to go in and, well, we'll give you a lot of money. We'll start a PAC for you, but you got to be for carbon sequestration over in the 4th District because we want to put one of those units in. And we'll give you everything that you need. Well, I'm not for that. I think that's a waste of money. Well, then we can't help you. Okay, well, then I guess that'll be the case. It's owned, folks. Everybody that's running in D.C. is there on somebody else's ticket. It's when you know that Mark Zuckerberg, for example, he's the brainiac who came up with Facebook. He was also given military intelligence and a lot of money to start Facebook. All of that's military. Twitter's the same way. Google's the same way. Google Maps, the same. Everything that we utilize on a daily basis, if you knew that, hey, the military developed that, then gave it to these guys and made them billionaires. They weren't brainiacs. If I gave you the ability to go create the smartphone back in 2009 and you went and found a bunch of, insiders and guys that, hey, we can make a lot of money doing this. And you find out, well, that device is going to track you for the rest of your days. You might be a little bit more leery of it if you find out that the military developed that instead of Steve Jobs and Apple and these other groups, that it was the military that wanted these things into the mix. That started back in the 50s and 60s. So this plan that they've got today of where we are, on how everybody is tracked and how China has just taken it, man, they've just taken it to the nth degree on watching people. And if you say or do the wrong thing, boop, you're gone. And you don't have any money to pay your rent, you're out on the streets. There's a whole group of kids today that are homeless. Not because they want to be, but because they spoke out. And their government shut them off and said, you can't participate in our society. Now, the same people that are running that country are good friends with the people over in Europe who want to do the same exact thing in Europe and in here, the U.S. Trump is doing everything that he can to stop it, but you're not. You think that somebody else is going to defend you from these fuckers, that you can just sit back and bide your time and somebody will go fight. Well, Tim Burchett is telling us that that's not the case. Tim Burchett out of Tennessee is telling us it's all fucked.
Justice Department is a multi-leveled onion, and I've said this all along. I wish they just fired them all, fired every dadgum one of them, and started over. Because you're never going to get to the bottom of this thing, Chris. It's just like the Kennedy assassination. Justice Department is a multi-leveled onion, and I've said this all along. I wish they just fired them all, fired every dadgum one of them, and started over. Because you're never going to get to the bottom of this thing, Chris. It's just like the Kennedy assassination. I was on this committee this year, and I asked a doctor the question of, did I think there was more than one bullet? And he said, of course there's more than one bullet. And he shows a diagram of Kennedy's head and the way the bullets went. He was in the room there when they brought Kennedy in. That should have been a national news story. This is Washington, D.C. 101, Chris. You grew up in it. I've just been brought into it rather late. But it's all a cover-up. The whole place is slimy. People want to call it a swamp. I said, quit calling it a swamp, man. Swamp is something pretty cool God created. It filters water. Animal life lives around it. This place is a sewer. It is man-made. It is crooked as a dog's leg. Both parties have sold out to the sewer, not to the swamp. There is a uniparty. And we're all just, I'm the 435th most powerful member of Congress. Nobody gives a rip what I say. We're all just out here dangling on a string. But until America gets off their butts on Election Day, that's Democrats and Republicans, and sees what's going on, and we have more than 12% of the dadgum population going to the polls, Chris, This kind of stuff will happen every day. It happens every time. You're right. The Democrats had this stuff for 4 years. They didn't do anything. We've had it for, I guess, 9 months now, maybe. Now we're putting this stuff out, and it's heavily redacted. Well, of course it's going to be heavily redacted. This is Washington. This is what we've created, and we've allowed this to infiltrate. We've allowed this bunch of dirtbags in Washington, D.C. to control our lives. I was in a meeting like this past week, Chris, and I'm not, I just say I was in a situation where I can't talk about I just say that I can't talk about the subject or what we were talking about. But so we asked a question, and they said that the president was on a need-to-know basis. I mean, you think that our leaders are actually running this place? You got another thing coming, man. You need to get out and experience reality some ways. You know, I'm sitting here on my farm in Tennessee, and I'm loving life. But I know the reality of what's going on around me. There is evil in this world, brother. There is evil. And we need some, and you said it in your earlier spot, we need some Old Testament judgment to come down on these people. Because one little girl, I was in the meeting, and I say one little girl, she was a little girl when she was raped. And I hate it when people say they had sex with old men. They didn't have sex, they were raped. They were violated. The most horrible things happened to these ladies, little girls. And this girl said, she said, I blacked out everything in my memory. You know, God gives people that ability sometimes when something's just so horrific. And she said, I want to see those files so I know what's in them. And I said, do you want them released? And she said, no, I don't. I wish people would understand, though, there's a group of people out there that are in this, involved in this, that don't want their names released. And there is some protection within the writing of the law, but you're correct in every one of your assumptions where you said that, you know, who goes after the Justice Department when they screw up? I mean, it's like, no, nobody goes after the Justice Department. And I think that's inherently what's wrong with this, the way they passed this thing and what they passed. They should have had a clause in there for punishment for refusing to do that. Cutting off funds, doing something. Congress is the checkbook. We should have done that. Cut off their freaking money. Why do we keep funding these bureaucrats that just constantly thumb their nose at the American public? I don't know. I'm very frustrated with Washington. I've been there 8 years. And, you know, my biggest surprise was when I got to Washington, Chris.
What?
I was not surprised. I was not surprised. I didn't go there cynical. I came there cynical. And I've just figured out the system a little more every day. But it's a crooked town, dude. Your daddy and my daddy, they fought. They were noble. They were honorable. They believed in their party. They believed in their country. But at the end of the day, they still communicated. There is no communication now. Everything's just handed down from on high, from our leadership, not necessarily the White House, but our leadership. The same way in the Democrat Party. They just do a better job of being unified. Our guys go off, and I think that's a lot of our strength, actually, is our ability to do that and still survive. But there is no communication between the parties.
You're watching the CramerSez Project.
Global news with local views.
CramerSez returns after this message from our partners.
Franklin D. Roosevelt said,
In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can be sure it was planned that way.
I don't make a habit of quoting FDR, but on this point, he's 100% right, which makes Vice President Vance's comments from last night even more important to pay attention to.
The only way to honor Charlie is to get to the bottom of exactly how this person was radicalized and who else was involved in it.
Hi, I'm Peter Flaherty, chairman of the National Legal and Policy Center. Since 1991, the NLPC has investigated and exposed the high crimes and misdemeanors of politicians and corporate leaders alike. Our mission is about one thing: accountability, not partisanship, just like Vice President Vance was talking about last night.
That is political terrorism, but it's not just the people who are killing the cops. It's not just the people who are engaging and throwing the Molotov cocktails and in the riots. Where was the money coming from? Who was organizing this violent activity? That is not going after Democrats unless, by implication, you're saying every single Democrat is involved in planning political violence.
For the past several years, NLPC is focused on who's funding the violence on our streets and the radicalization of our kids. Oddly, the same names keep popping up. Names like Soros, Hoffman, and Gates. The protests and the riots aren't happening by accident. The violence is not spontaneous. The left strategy is clear. Encourage arson, vandalism, and looting, and then blame the violence on the law enforcement response. The protesters are well-funded and equipped, and the NLPC is digging deep into exposing those responsible for supplying these groups with the masks, shields, and other devices being used to perpetuate violence in the name of social justice. To learn more about our mission or to join it, follow and share us on this social media platform or visit our website, nlpc.org.
To learn more about the CramerSez project, our mission, and how you can become a part of it,
Please visit thecramersezproject.com.
You're watching CramerSez.
There we go. Yeah, it does it every time. We don't know why it's doing it. We'll fix it later. Anyway, welcome back to the show. My name is Kramer. This is the CramerSez Project. And one of the things that we've been talking tonight, our main theme is accountability. Tim Burchett says it there that you have to be part of the accountability. You have to be a part of it. Folks, we're not going to change anything with the motherfuckers that are in there. I don't know if you realize this, but 2026 is really the last chance that we have at this. Things are going to spiral out of control pretty fucking fast unless we get some men and women in there that can put the brakes on things. Men and women who have the ability to say, no, we're not doing this. No, we're not going along with leadership just because leadership says to do this. No. The most valuable two-letter word you learned as a child. No. You told your parents, no, I don't want that food, and you would close your mouth and they'd just shove it in your pie hole. Why do you lose that ability when you become an adult and you start to get power and you start to climb up? Why do you say no less and less and less? Because you want more and more and more. You'll accept what you're given. They give you little crumbs and little pieces, and you say, thank you, sir. You're not going to say no to that. Plus, you want the power. That's why we're at where we're at, folks. Because the people that are there are protectors of the status quo. They are not there to hold others accountable. Why? Well, because somebody at some point may hold them accountable. What are we finding about our politicians? We just found out that a mayor, I can't remember what city it was, a mayor has to have a translator because he can't speak English in America. Accountability. It starts with us because it's going to end with us. The people who are benefiting from the status quo are not going to discontinue the status quo. I want you to understand that. You don't do it. Why would they? If you've got a great job and you love what you're doing and somebody comes in and says, hey, you got to change everything and stop doing that, we're going to do it a different way, you're going to do everything you can to maintain the status quo, what you're getting. You don't want to lose money. You don't want to lose status. You don't want to have to start over. They don't either. So when you come in and say, hey, listen, we want term limits, they're not going to give you term limits. Because what they know is that they already have term limits. They've just convinced you that they don't. Every congressional member has a term limit. That's why we have elections every 2, 4, 6 years. Their term is up. You term limit them. You see, I don't believe Americans anymore. I think they're all a bunch of lazy fucks. I really do. They say one thing and do another. They'll say that they want term limits, but they won't go vote in the primaries. That's how you get your term limits. You have to do something. But see, Americans have gotten lazy. They want the politician to do that for them. They want the politician to slit their own throat and say, you know what? I've worked my ass off. I've finally gotten here to be a congressional member, and now I'm only going to be able to be here 6 years or whatever term we come up with. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. Nobody in their right mind would term limit themselves. That's why our founding members, our founding fathers said, you know what? We got to put term limits in. They can only be in office 2 years, 4 years, or 6 years, depending on what office they're in. Now, the question is why aren't you voting in the primaries? Because you're lazy. The American populace is lazy. I've been calling for change. You want to disrupt the system? Go do what we did in 2010. Do you remember what 2010 was? 2010, all these new people came in, disrupted the system. They didn't know what to do. It took them a couple of years to own all those people. That's right, all of them. None of the Tea Party people, none of that group, none of them became anything more than just DC insiders. None of them. That's when I got into politics really heavy. I was in that taxed enough already group. I saw what it was doing to not only my business, but our communities. It wasn't making our communities better. It was making us all poorer. It was making a few people richer. The construction guys over there that are tied to the state and the governor, they're making pretty good money. The highway guys, they're making pretty good money. The lawyers, they're making pretty good money. But everybody else is getting fucked. And the roads still aren't done. If you've been to Indiana roads suck. What we've realized is our politicians are not delivering on what they promise. They don't have to. You know why? Because they know what I know. They know that you're lazy. They know that you won't go vote on primary day. No, this is not reverse psychology. I'm trying to kick on you so you'll go do it. I don't care anymore. The Civil War revolution is coming to this nation regardless of whether you go vote or not. It's coming. I'm hoping that we can stave it off long enough for my wife to at least die in peace, but I don't think we're going to make it. I think things are going to deteriorate very quickly, primarily because the American populace is too fucking lazy to be involved in their own liberties and freedoms. They keep thinking that somebody else is going to go fight for them. Is my message consistent? Yes, it's been consistent from the very beginning. Don't bitch and moan. Don't bitch and moan unless you go vote in the primary. Don't bitch and moan unless you go to town hall. Don't bitch and moan unless you're willing to go do it on a daily basis. I'm so fucking tired of people complaining, nothing's ever going to happen. Yeah, what are you doing? It's numbers they fear. That's why January 6th scared the shit out of them. January 6th scared the shit out of the status quo. I said it the day I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs of the Capitol. I'm on Facebook saying they're scared shitless. The people, the elites are scared shitless. This scares the fuck out of them. You know why? King Louis, Marie Antoinette. It wasn't the aristocrats that ended their lives. No, it was the everyday common Joe who said, I'm done with this. I'm not playing the games anymore. Did killing Marie Antoinette and Louis XIV, did that solve a problem? No, it just created a new one. It created what France has become. They didn't become a democracy. They just became another version of what they already were. But the French have always been willing to give up, right? There's an old joke. French gun for sale. Was a French war gun for sale. Only dropped once because the French were known for retreating and dropping their guns and running. Yeah, we had to go save them from the Huns. And today, our politicians tell us that we should be more like France and their system. Have you seen what their system is? Have you seen what they're doing? Have you seen they've got, just like Great Britain, they've got rape gangs and the illegal problem with all the Muslims taking over, and they're again dropping their gun and retreating. Not the Italians. The Italians are now putting men in the streets, roaming gangs to make sure that the Muslims aren't raping their women. Why? Because they have to. We are at the final stage, folks, vigilantism. It's when the system can no longer protect the citizenry. I've been talking about this for a while. There are stages to collapse. We're in one of the final stages. The system can no longer protect the citizens, and the system can only protect its own and use the system against its enemies. It's no longer worried about protecting you. Why is that? Because they're going to shut everything down. I keep telling you. They're not paying any of this back. We're not going to pay that $39 trillion back. It's never getting paid. And not a dime of it. They're going to try and kill everybody off and start over in their George Jetson world. But what they want to do is, before they do that, they want to get power one more time. They want to slip into power one more time. Democrats believe that if they get power one more time, they can right the ship. They can make everything right. That's what they're promising their base. If you put us in power one more time, we're going to go after all those people we don't like. We're going to go after Trump. We're going to go after his administration. We're going to go after all those ICE officials and the judges. We're going to go after everybody. We'll go after the influencers who spoke favorably of Trump. Anybody who showed support, we're going after those guys. How do I know that that's the case? Because Eric Swalwell, he's a big mouth. He wants to let everybody know that he's been invited to the big boy table, and that's what they're talking about at the big boy table. Jamie Raskin's saying the exact same thing. You give us power. You put us back in a position to where we have authority, we will go after everybody. That's exactly what we'll do. They're not being quiet about it, folks. And when people tell me what they're going to do to me, I believe them. You should too.
Do you think it's a real possibility? You think if
Yes.
these guys get back into power and nobody's held accountable, we'll see the same kind of thing all over again?
No, it will be worse. It will be significantly worse. And we know that because of 2016. Remember, in 2016, everyone was saying, lock her up, lock her up. Everybody wanted to see Hillary Clinton go to jail. At least all Trump supporters did. And when he got in office, everybody wondered, is he going to prosecute Hillary Clinton? And he said no. He said, we need to let the nation heal. We need to let Hillary Clinton heal. He was trying to move forward. He was trying to do what the left is telling him to do now. It's like, oh, we'll let bygones be bygones. And what did they do? They came at him harder than we've ever seen. They came at him trying to cripple him, trying to ensure he could never come after them. They came after him with everything they could possibly think of to come after him and those of us around him and innocent supporters all over the country. They came hard and they still lost. And so what that tells me is if President Trump doesn't nip this in the bud in this term, if they ever get another chance at power, they are going to up the ante significantly more to ensure that there's nobody that ever has a chance to hold them accountable again.
That's what they're saying, folks. That's what the 2026 election is about. It's a mandate from the people of where we want this nation to go. Now, my question to you is, there's some of you out there that go, oh, my vote doesn't count. If you don't vote, it doesn't count. You're absolutely right. You're 100% right. If you don't vote, it doesn't count. And if you don't vote, shut the fuck up. We don't want to hear from you anymore. You're part of the problem. You and me are part of the solution. Vote, because this is our last opportunity. As I told you in 2024, this is exactly where we would be 2 years later. I said that this is what they do, that they try to go back after Trump. I can tell you what's going to happen for the next 10 years, not based on what I know for sure, but based on what they've told us they're going to do. We know what they want to do through 2035. We know what their plan is. Folks, they're not hiding it. They've told you the future that they have for you and your family. You'll own nothing. You'll be happy. We're going to teach your kids how to butt fuck and suck dick and eat pussy and toss salads. We're going to do all that in the schools because you won't do that at home. We have to do that at school. They're telling you what they're going to do. At some point, you're going to have to stand up. You're going to have to grow a pair. Say, not in my house, not in my community, not in my town, not in my state, not in my country. We're tired of this. We're not going to do this anymore. We're not playing these games. And until you do that, they're going to continue doing what they do. They are protectors of the status quo. And if you want accountability, you are going to have to start demanding it because they're not going to do it. You're going to have to show up at your state capitol. You're going to have to show up at your congressman and your senator's office. You're going to have to start calling and writing letters. You're going to have to do something to defend your freedoms. Because if you don't, Democrats get in charge again, they're coming for everybody. No one is safe. They've told you what they're going to do. They're not shy about it. What do you think those FEMA camps are for? Do you think those are for an emergency? Why do we need a FEMA camp that holds 2 million people? What the fuck are they expecting to happen? When are you going to start defending your rights and liberties like our founding fathers did? When are you going to stand? When are you going to say enough is enough and stop expecting some mealy-mouthed bureaucrat to do it for you? Let me give you something that's real base, as the kids say today. He's so based. If they were going to do it, they would have already done it. That's it. That's the test. If they were going to do it, they would have already done it. What are they doing? They're doing everything but what we want. Do you want another data center in your community? You want another business that comes in and sucks up all your water and leaves your town dry? Is that what you want? No. Well, that's what they're giving you. Why are they doing that? Because they believe that your silence is their permission. And they believe that they know better than you do, that they're smarter than you are. They are. Because the truth is that they're not, but you think they are, or you think that if you do something, you're going to get in trouble. If you speak up, if you step out of line, that they're going to come for you. This is America, folks. We've got remedies for that. And when those things fail, which it looks like they're going to fail here pretty quickly, this should be a warning to all politicians that are out there. You are taking us to the precipice of revolution or civil war in this nation. We have men all over the country in high places, high positions. I'm talking to CEOs, I'm talking to CFOs, I'm talking to political leaders, and they're all talking the exact same way. Revolution or civil war within our lifetimes. I'm an old man, so that's sometime rarely soon. They're talking that way because they know history. They know where we're going. They're trying to stop it like I'm trying to stop it. But what I'm afraid of is there's far too many Americans that believe that, well, first of all, there's some that want it. You're crazy. You do not want what's coming. I don't want Gaza in my backyard. I don't want Afghanistan or Iraq or any of these other shitholes in my backyard. I definitely don't want it in my yard, at my doorstep. And I've never even been in it. I've just seen enough of it to know, and I've talked to enough of our soldiers, professionals who've been highly trained in this, how bad it is. I don't want that for my family. I don't want that for your family. But that shit's coming. And the reason it's coming is because we've got men and women in office today that don't have the balls to stand up to anyone and do the right thing. Do the right thing for Americans. Tim Burchett says the same thing every time he talks. We have no authority. I'm just one of 435. There's 535 members, folks. 535. They run our entire country. They're the ones that make the decisions on how much gets taken out of your pay and then where that money goes. You don't like what they're doing? You're upset with where we are? Trump is just one guy. Those 535 members of Congress, 100 senators and 435 congressional members, folks, those are the ones who make the decisions and the backroom deals on a daily basis. They're the ones that affect your life and are in your pocket the most. You want to affect change? Get them out. Vote for anybody but the incumbent. That's the only option that we have this time around. Because if we don't get these fuckers out, if we can't start for new and can't get to 2028 and get these people held accountable, Trump can't hold any of these people accountable. His DOJ isn't going to do anything. Bondi isn't going to do anything. Patel isn't going to do anything. Kramer playing 5D chess. Yeah. There's no such thing as 5D chess. I've never worked with anybody in government that has the ability to play 5D chess. They're not that smart, folks, but they are ruthless. With that being said, Please join us over at the CramerSezProject.com. Find out what we're doing. We're trying to build a grassroots news service. It's not going as well as I thought it was going to go. I thought people wanted to branch out and get deep investigations into what's going on and help out. And what I found is that nobody does. Everybody talks a big game. I've put hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line getting ready to get to this point. And when I reach out and tell Americans, hey, listen, we've got a way to do this, nobody reaches out. And the ones that do, bless their hearts, they don't have the skill sets that we need. This is what I'm talking about. Too many Americans are too comfortable. Had an editor buddy of mine, a video editor, and I said, hey, listen, I'm doing this project, would you? And he's a conservative. And I said, hey, listen, would you be interested? And he goes, no, I'm not going to waste my time. I said, why is that? He goes, because I would rather make money than spend my wheels trying to make change, political change in this nation. We're not talking anymore. He's a big complainer. And I said, well, this is your opportunity to actually do something. And he wants to be in at the top. He wants to be at the very top. He wants to start at the top. He doesn't want to start at the grassroots. Sadly, I think that's the way the majority of Americans are. So we'll see how the CramerSez project moves forward in the new year. And if we're going to do what I was hoping to do, of doing deep investigations into things, I think that we're in a position in this country. I was trying to do it without asking anybody for money. I was trying to do it from a grassroots standpoint. And people won't even volunteer. It's easier to get $10 a month out of them than it is to volunteer. Maybe that's what I should do. Just start charging and start doing my investigations, get our team together. We'll do our things, and we charge like everybody else does. I was trying to do it to where we didn't have to do that, but it looks like that's the case because nobody with any capabilities wants to step forward. They're all too busy making money and living their lives. Their nation, although they bitch about it, they bitch and moan, they don't have time to do anything about it, defend their own rights and liberties and freedoms. So we'll see where it goes in the new year. With that being said, thanks again. Find out what we're doing at the CramerSezProject.com. That's CramerSez Project.com. The CramerSezProject.com. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Kramer Says Live.
This concludes this broadcast.
Please follow, like, and subscribe to be notified the next time
The CramerSez Project goes live.